Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and the end credits of Star Wars Ahsoka are gorgeously constructed and filled with secrets, from planets on a star map in an ancient runic language that I actually figured out how to translate, and these translations actually spell out the path to Peridea to the letter, reframe what we know about Star Wars, and bring up some other visual details from episode 2 that we missed. Like, in addition to hearing Purrgil on Cetos, Balin's skull actually saw one moving in the clouds. Hell yeah, let's do this. And by the way, if you are watching Ahsoka and you've never seen Rebels and you kind of need a cheat sheet, we are doing a 4-part Rebels recap series on this channel. And while you should watch all of Rebels, just watching these videos will catch you up with what you really need to know to truly appreciate Ahsoka. Okay, the closing credits of every episode depict the path to Peridea, described by Balin's skull in episode 2 as a fairy tale told by children in the Jedi Temple, but confirmed by Night Sister Morgan Elsbeth to be based on truth. And these golden lines take us through the known Star Wars universe to the unknown galaxy that this series is expanding to. Visually, this may remind you of the branching bloodline animation of the House of the Dragon opening titles, and it does something similar, but instead of individuals on a family tree, we are seeing Star Wars planets and how they connect on this yellow brick road. Now, when I first saw these runes, I did not recognize them as any known Star Wars written language like Aurebesh or Mandoa. Covering these shows for so long on YouTube, I've gotten pretty good at recognizing Aurebesh and Mandoa. Both of those are alphabets with one-to-one correlations with the 26 letters of the English alphabet. At this point, I can kind of look at an Aurebesh word and eyeball it and know what it is. I know it's probably not a healthy thing. Now, with this new runic language, it seems like it's the language of the ancient civilization that this series is branching back to. So we don't already have an alphabet for these runes, and we had to work backwards to figure out what that alphabet is. How does one do this? Well, 3 years ago, when the teaser for the Robert Pattinson Batman movie came out, we saw the Riddler's clue with the cipher, and I, within a few hours, was able to figure out what the answer to that riddle was. And the first thing you do when you see a cipher like this is you look for double letters, and then you try to apply that to words that might already exist in the answer word or answer phrase. In this case, the answer was he lies still. And starting with a double L, we were able to get the L, the I, the T, the S. It's basically cryptography 101, pretty rudimentary stuff. It's basic substitution. And you just kind of use your logic, your Wheel of Fortune, your crossword skills, and the number of letters in a word to figure out what it would be. So here in these closing credits, there are 20 visible words in this runic language. And knowing that it is the path to Peridea, P-E-R-I-D-E-A, according to Disney Plus's closed captioning, that is 7 letters. And I think it's a safe assumption the final destination point in this animation is Peridea, and these 7 runes apply to the 7 letters of Peridea. So as we work to fill in our alphabet, that gives us a P, an E, an R, an I, a D, and an A, which is pretty good. We got 3 vowels there and an R, a very common consonant. Now, since Cetos was defined as the reflex point planet in episode 2, I thought at first that might be the first planet we see, but the runes do not line up. This word begins and ends in an A. So then I realized, oh, this must be Arcana, the location of the Night Sister Temple in episode 1, which cool, adds to our alphabet a C and an N, and being another very common letter. And then as I looked around the sequence, I realized Cetos must actually be the third of the last one, number 17, the one surrounded by a Purrgil constellation. The E and the A line up, and the first and the last letter are the same, so that must be our S. And great, now we also have an S, a T, and an O, and we are well on our way, folks. But the cool thing about this planet being surrounded by a big Purrgil hyperspace whale on the star map is, if you rewatch that scene with Balin on Cetos closely, when he looks up past the column at the sky, I pointed out in my breakdown of this episode that you can hear a Purrgil call, but you can also see a Purrgil shadow shifting around the clouds, especially when you brighten that region. So just a reminder that the migratory path of the Purrgil is the path to Peridea. They lead the path to another galaxy. So from here, I was able to figure out most of the alphabet of these runes, and I used it to translate all of the planets that we see, all of the runes, and it's pretty interesting how this ancient map charts everything out, especially if you watch the Rebels Season 3 finale, where the character of Grand Admiral THRAWN applies his own ancient star map to the current galactic map to triangulate the position of Atollon. This guy is all about ancient star maps. He has a map that you can layer on top of our map to open up new pathways, and I think that's what this series is doing. So the first planet we see as the animation begins is Arcana, as I mentioned. That's a planet with the Night Sister Temple that we see in episode 1. The second planet translates to Ierne, I-E-R-N-E. That's a new planet to Star Wars that we haven't heard of yet, but down at the bottom of the screen is a third marking. It's the last 3 letters of a word ending in R-M-M. I'm not sure what that is, but then the path strikes 2 planets and branches downward through another circle, striking 2 more planets, and then speeds into a ring with a Loth wolf in the background, which is important because in Star Wars Rebels Season 4, 2-dimensional Loth wolves like this are what led Ezra Bridger to the world between worlds, a realm that can transcend the boundaries of time itself. I like mobile games, but sometimes I want something casual that I can dip in in and out of all day long rather than having to really focus on for an hour at a time. And right now, my casual game of choice is Pocket Champs. Pocket Champs is free to download on an iOS or Android, and it is so fun. In Pocket Champs, you're in charge of training a champ so that they can beat other champs in races on obstacle courses. Every course is different, but you've got a bunch of gadgets to choose from to make sure that your champ has a leg up on the competition. The upgrading and progression is super satisfying, particularly when it lets you eke out some close wins. So in this race, I used my wings because there'd be a lot of flying. That green guy on the skateboard almost got me, but then right at the end, boom, first place. Pocket Champs is super fun. If you want to play it yourself, click the link in the description below or scan the QR code on the screen. You'll get a free starter pack with 1,100 gems to upgrade your gadgets added to your account on September 4th, but only if you download before the 3rd. Now on the border of this ring at the top of the screen, it says Perlemian Trade Route. That is a hyperspace trade route that connects Felucia and Tanab that's referenced by the Bad Batch. It's an old Tarkin favorite. But top middle of the screen here, Garel. That is a planet that showed up several times in Rebels. It's supposed to be relatively close to Lothal, and sure enough, to the lower right of this is Lothal, L-O-T-H-A-L. This is the recurring setting in Rebels. It's a home of Ezra Bridger, very important planet, and yes, it's seen in live action in Ahsoka episodes 1 and 2. Directly to the right of Lothal is another planet, and then past that, Mandalore, M-A-N-D-A-L-O-R-E. Doomed homeworld of the Mandalorian people, seen in Mandalorian Season 3 and in Clone Wars and Rebels, another very important planet. Then we branch into an area with 3 visible planets. The path actually bypasses Agamar, which is actually a rocky planet that the Ghost Crew visited with Rex in the Rebels Season 3 episode The Last Battle. This was the site of a past Clone Wars battle. And then the path hits, in the middle of a ring, Dathomir. Ooh, so this is the home of Maul, and it is a place where a Night Sister temple stood. It was seen in Clone Wars with the Night Sister Mother Talzin reanimated Maul's legs, and of course it was the temple where Ezra, Maul, Kanan, and Sabine went into in Rebels Season 3 and recovered the Darksaber. Now interestingly, right above Dathomir, very close to it, is Yavin. This is the gas giant with the moon of Yavin 4 where the Rebel base stood. Didn't realize Dathomir and Yavin were this close. Then the path branches deeper into a whole other area. In the center of this ring is Corellia. This is the industrial planet seen in episode 2, also in Solo, a Star Wars story. In the top center of this area, that translates to Cato Nemoidia. That's the wealthy home of the Nemoidians from the prequels and the Clone Wars era. Below that is Duro, D-U-R-O, the populated home of the Duros race. And then beneath that, surprised that it was this close to anything, Pasana, P-A-S-A-A-N-A. That is the desert planet that we see in The Rise of Skywalker, where they recover the dagger, and Rey thinks she kills Chewbacca. I thought that was way further away from everything else. Now that large curved band that we see to the right, those runes translate to Corellian Run, the famous hyperspace lane used by smugglers. Now our gold line path branches downward to what I assume are the core worlds of this galaxy because it intersects with the center world, which is Coruscant, C-O-R-U-S-C-A-N-T. And now, finally, we arrive at our reflex point of Cetos. It is surrounded by the Purgle, which really starts the pathway to Peridea. The path branches rightward through 2 crescent shapes. The first one is unmarked, but the second one translates to Odin, O-D-Y-N. Why is this important? Well, Balin's skull and Shin Hati are named after the Norse mythological wolves that chase the sun and moon across the sky. Odin, O-D-I-N, different spelling, is the supreme Norse god. We see Loth wolves on the Lothal mural that Sabine painted. Even the character of Marok gets his name from Arthurian legend, a character associated with wolves. I'm telling you, wolf imagery is everywhere in this, and I think this Odin planet's gonna have some connection to Balin and Shin. Now, the far right planet is something Unna, U-N-N-A, maybe Zunna, based on the consonants I still haven't figured out yet. Now the line here passes several shimmering Purgle and several lines intersect at our final destination, Peridea. So Peridea is in a separate galaxy. Think about it, all of Star Wars until now has been a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. One galaxy with some unknown regions, but still one galaxy. This is a second galaxy altogether, and that's a huge deal. It means that this era of Star Wars stories might actually take place in a history unaffected by the events of the sequel trilogy, and that Ahsoka and the crossover movie that Dave Filoni is working toward do not have to tie into the Rise of the First Order or the Palpatine cloning plot or Snoke, Starkiller Base, any of that. It could be a whole new horizon of planets dominated by THRAWN. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on all this, but please support new Rockstars with this Ahsoka inspired Fulcrum shirt available at nerdriot.shop, and subscribe to the break room for our Ahsoka after shows. Also subscribe to the deep dive, and don't forget to use our link in the description below to download Pocket Champs and get a free starter pack. You can follow me at EA Voss. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.